sound system, and I'll just use my built-in sound system as a director of high schoolers on a daily basis. 200 or 196 days of the year is what I do. So I have the voice that can carry. My name is Tim Martin. I am the proud conductor of the Northeast Community Band. This fine group behind you. We really thank you for allowing us to come across the river from Northeast Minneapolis to come over here and play at Como Lake. I think you're really going to enjoy the music selections that we have for you tonight. Some of them are a smattering of things that we've done throughout the year, some of the highlights that we've had, and I really just want to kick it off and have our first conductor, one of our guest conductors, Kelsey Bockham, who is an elementary music teacher and a fine conductor from the Brooklyn Center School. Oh, Heights, Columbia Heights School. I can't remember. They need a bigger stage for us.
Okay, now it's working. How about that? Yes. I appreciate that. Thank you. So this year I have some really fine music educators in this group, and so I wanted to have them come and showcase their talents and pick some pieces from their personal repertoire, things that spoke to them as younger musicians or when they were in school and somewhere. And so throughout tonight, you'll see a couple other people come up and conduct some other pieces, so you don't see this ugly mug up here conducting all night. So that first piece was a fantastic piece by David Maslanka, and was called Illumination. And this next piece is this is what we in the band world would call an oldie but a goodie. This is Nordic, and I'm going to forget, yeah, Nordic Fantasy. And I think many of us in this part of the world will recognize a lot of this. And what a beautiful setting to play Nordic Fantasy. fun with this group. We rehearse pretty religiously and have for the last 27 years. On Thursday nights from 7 to 9, and even during the pandemic, when everybody was quarantined, we were all at home and everybody was trying all the new things online and Zoom this and Zoom that. And I don't know how many of you are musicians or were in groups or in school where you had your Zoom band or your Zoom orchestra or your Zoom choir. We did Zoom community bands on Thursday nights. We all wore headphones, and some of us forgot to unmute sometimes, and we would play along to tracks. So I would put out the music, and we would play along to a recording. Not us, somebody else, and so we would play along, and just the community of being around that. It was really fun. There weren't 90 of us at that time that would do that. I don't know, we'd have 8 to 15 to sometimes. It was a varied number. You just came and hung out, but it was very fun. So we've been pretty consistent about being on Thursday nights from 7 to 9 at Edison. You can look us up in the Google. Is that where I think most of the people. How many of you joined the band because of Google? There we go. They just went and they looked up community bands near me, and they found us over in Northeast Minneapolis. And you know what? Anywhere in the cities is near you. So this next piece, though, is a really wonderful piece by one of my favorite new composers. His name is Randall Standridge, and this is a piece where the real title is just Music Speaks, but it's When Words Fail, Music Speaks. band full of amazing players, it's sometimes difficult to find all the great pieces and feature everybody. But then when you have a fantastic clarinet section, you have to, I mean, it's like a rule. We're not allowed to have bands without, if we do not play Molly on the Shore by Percy Grainger. So I'm going to bring up to the front of the stage another wonderful young conductor that's emerging here in the music education scene here in the Twin Cities. In your second year with the Minneapolis Public Schools 5th grade cadre, instrumental music for all, Michelle Hofeld.
Hi everybody, I am going to conduct a piece called First Suite Fanfare. If you are a fan of community bands, you may know Gustav Holst's First Suite in E flat. This song is an homage to that song. So it has the same notes, but it sounds very different. And my conducting mentor, Erika, Svanoe, who's a local Minnesota composer and taught at Augsburg, wrote this piece. So thanks for coming. First Suite Fanfare.
That was a treat, right? Wasn't that fun? That was amazing. It was a fun piece. Way to go, Dr. Svanoe. So, I often like to have sections of featured, and so I think the clarinets have something for us. They actually may have. Am I supposed to give it away? Is it 1 and 2? I gave it away. So they're going to play a couple of pieces for you, and I'm just going to let them go at it. Here is the clarinet section. Do we need to tell them what they're playing? Is it a guess? Is it a guess? who recognize that last one. I know the first one is Arirang. It's a Korean folk song, but the last one was certainly what? The Wii channel theme. How many of you played Wii? How many of you had a Wii? How many of you still have your Wii? How many of you still play Wii? I play Wii golf because real golf is I'm really not very good at. But man, am I good at Wii golf all day long. Man, just never miss. Okay, one of the things that I started this band 27 years ago, and it's been a really great community that we've had. This year we have, I don't know, 90 some players when we're all here together. And there's been years when we've had like 13 and 27, and we've tried to make it work, and we certainly have. So one of the things we've done over the last few years is we have a scholarship fund now through, and we rehearse at Edison High School over in Northeast. And one of our members and founding members and treasurer, Ralph Sowden, passed away. And so through him, we started a scholarship fund for Edison High School students. And over the last 4 years, we have a scholarship, and they write essays, and we evaluate the essays. And this year we had 4 just fantastic, three really amazing essays, and so that, and we try to award that person this concert. And so that young person is here tonight, and so we want to have them come up. And so Seb Castillo, will you please come to the stage, ladies and gentlemen, Seb Castillo. Scholarship for Seb to use in whatever way musically as you go forward in your life and in your endeavors. I just really wanted to, one of the things that really hit me when I read these, and I think the board members also when we read these, see if I can find it now because it is small. Where was it? It was right there. I had to find it. It was about the thing. If I go this way. There's so much great. Let's see. It's about the family parts. Where was it? Should have moved it. Sorry for wasting everyone's time. It's just oh, here it is. All right, and let me just read this to you, because this is what really. This is why I started the video. Music and my role in the ensemble developed into a big part of my life. And as I became a part of a big family that strive to speak to others through playing. Thank you, others that are in our family. I gained exceptional opportunities and experiences thanks to being part of the Edison's concert band program, and that I would not have imagined I would ever have. So. And you learn to play the violin, and you're in right? You learn to play the violin in concert band, right? So Miss Earls, or Miss E, as we like to call her at Edison High School in the NPS program, Go NPS. She's got a great program. She fits whatever. If you walk in the door with an instrument, does anybody play an accordion in your band? Okay. On the first night of this band, 27 years ago, 3 accordion players showed up. But I totally held to heart your whole idea that, you know, this is a big family. Congratulations. Seth is going on to the University of Minnesota. Study something in minor music, so we're excited to see what their endeavors and adventures are after that. Thank you. Ralph would be very proud. Yeah, so this piece that we're going to do, this next piece, is a great piece. It's going to be, the tune is going to be very familiar to you. The arrangement is not. The arrangement is from James Reese, Europe, and he, for many that, I don't know, maybe you know, I don't think you do, I don't know, maybe you do. Yes, St. Louis Blues. Well, it was arranged by them. It was St. Louis Blues. We're doing the St. Louis Blues. Kitchen full of cooks. Okay. James Reese, Europe, and his arranger, James Lamb, they had this band in World War I, the 369th Hellfighter Band, and they were out of Harlem. And they were the only performing musicians on the European front for the United States. So during the day, they worked all sorts of different jobs, and at night, it was their job to entertain all of our troops. And they were a huge hit, not only with the American soldiers, but also the European towns and places around there. So much that they were really like the Sousa Band over in Europe for quite a while, and many people thought that's really what the Sousa Band sounded like. And Sousa, I don't know, I would assume maybe just reading other things about it, he may not have liked that so much, but he still thought it was pretty cool. The sad thing was, though, that when they came back in 1915 and were performing around, and this is their thing, they would have come to the pavilion like this and played, and we all would have come out in droves like you are tonight, and we can't thank you enough for coming out. And so but the unfortunate part is that, you know, things happen in a kitchen full of cooks, and so people don't get along. And unfortunately, James Reese Europe was killed, and there was an altercation, and so you can look up all of that. But this is his, or James Lamb's, arrangement of St. Louis Blues by W.C. Handy. next piece, aptly tapped, I almost want you to like not look at the band at all and look at the lake. Because the name of this piece is called Lakeland. And so I just think if you just like stare at the lake for a minute and just listen to the music, I think you're gonna totally love it. But you don't have to do that, okay? You can totally just watch the band if you want, okay? Right here now to my right is my good friend Kyle Besser. Kyle is in his 4th year with the band. He's in his 4th year of teaching also in the MPS, Minneapolis Public Schools, 5th grade music instrumental program. And so we're really happy to have Kyle in Minneapolis teaching with us as well. And he's going to conduct this wonderful piece called Lakeland. band is a non-profit. We are a 501c3c. I don't know. I just wave a stick. I don't know these things. But we do have our, like I said, we do have our scholarship. And so if you are inclined and would like to help for us to continue doing that scholarship, we would, if you wanted to come and see anybody in, well, I'm not wearing my shirt, the orange, the maroon shirts, come in, and if you'd like to give us whatever we would take, if it jingles and it's paper, or if you want to talk to us, we do have the electronic. Do we not have the electronics? Do we have the Venmos? Do we have, I don't know, the e-pay, I don't know that stuff. But we would be happy to do that. Ralph would also be very happy. He was the treasurer as well of the band, and so we would be happy for you to help us out as we look to the next year's senior that we will also be we're honoring with a scholarship. So these next two pieces I think are going to be pretty fun. For those of you that are maybe this high and not just young and a little younger than the rest of us, but like this, you will recognize this piece. This is from How to Train Your Dragon. See, I told you, right? I was waiting for that. And so, and it's a super fun piece. It's a great piece of music, and it's timely, and we all like it. And then go see the new one when it comes out. When is it out, Hannah? Soon. She knows. Hannah knows. Hannah's on. It's already, tickets are bought and the popcorn's ready to go. So it's okay. All right. So here, this is a fabulous arrangement of some pieces from How to Train Your Dragon. because you were clapping so much, yes, we will play another piece. We will play another piece for you. This is titled Castles in Europe. This is also from James Reese Castle, or James Reese Europe, his library of music, and it has nothing to do with castles or Europe, other than the fact that his band was over there. Irene and Vernon Castle sponsored him while he was overseas, and also when he was back here in the States before and after the war for a very short time. And so this is kind of his, and of course we know Vernon and Irene Castle as inventors of early dance back in the first part of the 1900s. How many of us are from the 1900s? I was born in the 1900s. Here we go. So this is a ragtime. This is a ragtime, and this is called Castles in Europe. Thank you so much for coming out and hanging out with us tonight. Thank you very much. enjoy your summer season. Those are all the songs we know. We really don't know any more songs. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful summer. We'll see you. Check us out on the Facebooks and the thing with the web, with the org, we're the .org, right? I don't know. .com. It's a .com. It's northeastcommunityband.com. If you look us up, we are playing a couple times through the summer. You can come hang out with us again. Come over to Minneapolis and see us. Thank you, St. Paul. Have a great summer.